Hello folks, Jason Chrisman, JC's Bees, Central Ohio beekeeper. As promised, this week I'm going to share a video on my homemade incubator. It's a rather lengthy video, I know, but I wanted to share the whole progress, and that way it might help anybody that, is intrigued to try and build one. An incubator can be rather handy when raising your own queens, or queen rearing. It saves a lot of the hassle with the finisher colony because you're not constantly going out to check cells to see if they're capped. Sure, you can use a queen calendar and kind of figure out what day the cells should be capped, and then from there go out and get your cells. But still, it saves a lot of the hassle. I've found in the last few years, in the early spring when I start grafting, and it comes time for me to go get my cells, it seems like the weather is always crap that day. It's either really cold or it's raining. So for that reason, I like the incubator. The cells can simply emerge out into a hair roller cage. From there I can feed them and transfer them to a California cage and start adding them to queenless splits. So it's rather handy. And I'm going to share that with you in just one second. But I had a lot of people that really liked how I did the video last week with the updates, the things I did through the week related to beekeeping. And I'm going to do that again today, but it's going to be at the end of this video. So if that's something you'd like to see, you're going to have to wait till the end. I apologize. One thing I'd like to go ahead and throw out, if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like the content, please just take a minute, go down below the video, hit the subscribe button, make sure you click that little bell so you can get notified when I release new videos. And hey, now we're linked together. You won't miss a thing, and I appreciate that. So let's check out this incubator, and then at the end, we'll do the updates. Okay folks, so as promised, this week I'm going to share my homemade incubator. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I've got, and then I'll kind of break it down with some videos I took as I was building it. And then from there I'll show you it in use. So let's go ahead and break it down a little bit. What we've got here is a Ceracell beekeeping box that they sent me, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It's aluminum. You can see the rivets here in the end. You can also see where the metal kind of overlaps here. The handhold on the end. On the back, what I did was I took a piece of Luan. It's actually an old antique dresser drawer bottom. So it's not actually Luan, it's actually 1/4 inch plywood that's oak. Well, it's got oak Luan, I guess, on it. But anyway, that's my bottom surface. It takes care of the whole back. On the back of my box is where I've got my cord hookup for my power. So we'll turn it back around. And we'll work on discussing the face. So here at the front, what we've got is a piece of Lexan as my front cover. I chose that instead of glass because it's a little bit more durable and I don't have to worry about it breaking. These are my latches, as you can see. You flip them both up and you can open the door. Now at this point, you have the option of sliding out the top drawer, putting your cells up here, or sliding out the bottom drawer and putting your cells down here. Now you can see I've got my brood minders in here, and if you're not familiar with brood minder, these are sensors that you can stick in your hive to monitor temperature and humidity. I have some videos on that if you want to learn more about brood minder. Also in the top, you're going to notice, well, in the top you're going to notice one sensor. This one here actually goes straight to the PID switch, which is the control unit that controls this and runs this whole thing. This white cable that you see here is another temperature probe, and I have it looped and hanging down below, which you can see it here, the top drawer. And it runs over and goes to this. Now, it's actually the middle temperature setting on this gauge. The top one is the temperature that this unit itself is picking up. It has a probe built into it, plus this one goes out and does this one. So in would be the temperature that the unit itself is reading, and out is going to be what this probe is reading. So underneath of all of this, and I might have to get a screwdriver, I don't know. Yeah, I do. Let me pause this and get a screwdriver, and I'll break it down a little bit more and show you the guts. Okay, so I got the screw that was holding that bottom plate removed, and I've pushed it into this piece of cardboard so I don't lose it. Well, let's go ahead and remove this bottom cover and take a look at all the goodies. Okay, the first thing you're going to see, let me turn it a little bit so we can get more light in there. You're going to notice a fan, and you're going to notice an electric relay. That relay takes 110 volts and transforms it into 12.5 volts, actually 13.5 volts, and that powers this fan and the heating element underneath of it. Let me remove this here so you can take a look at it. What we've got is we've got a piece of Luan, some wooden blocks at all four corners, and the wooden blocks basically elevate the fan to keep it from touching the heating element. Since the fan is plastic, I don't want to melt it. Underneath of the fan, you can see there's two aluminum plates. There's one laying flat on the piece of Luan, and then there's another one, about a 1/4 inch offsetted off of the Luan, and that's the one that has the heating element attached to it, which you can kind of see right here. So what the heating element does is it kicks on, heats up that piece of aluminum, the one it's mounted to, the top piece of aluminum, and the fan blows the heat this direction up across all of the cells, basically heating up the incubator. So in the bottom, what I've done is I've taken some foam insulation and I've lined this whole box all the way around, and I've made some Luan sides to cover the insulation, and then I put on, let me remove this top shelf, these boards or little wedges all the way around for my frames to act as drawers, just like so. And you can see the frame pushes right into the box just like it would if it was an actual beehive. Of course, I didn't change any of the measurements of the frame, except for I did cut a little bit off of the depth, I believe, because in the back, I showed you on the very back side of the box I have Luan, but on the inside I have a piece of 1/2 inch foam board with the reflective coating on it. So what we'll do is we'll take this and, one more thing I want to point out. In the bottom I have a ceramic tile, and what that ceramic tile does is it absorbs heat, and once it absorbs heat, this unit over here doesn't have to kick on as much. All of these plastic grids that you see I got from an old incubator that we bought from China a few years ago. Worked great when we first got it, and then it kind of just petered out and doesn't work anymore. So I used some of the trays that you see here to make my incubator. As far as the parts though, I pretty much ordered everything from the fan to the heating element, the wire, the PID switch, which I've never heard of a watt low, was sent to me by a follower of mine, and I'm greatly appreciative to have this watt low. If you know anything about PIDs or have messed with them at all, you probably know watt low is top-notch, top of the line. It's a lot better than Inkbird or any of the other options out there, just because of all of the specs and ways you can break things down a lot easier with this versus the cheaper models. The two switches, this one's the power switch, and this one controls a light, which is up under here, and I'm not going to remove that right now. And this is actually a dimmer switch for the light. Turns, let's say I think you click it twice, you got two different settings, and then the third click is off. So that's how that works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the camera, I'm going to throw this screw back in, and we'll slide everything back together. Okay, so the screw's back in. We can now set this bottom drawer back in its place. Let's pick up our cord. So that's pretty much the basic rundown on it. And what I like about this setup is, like I mentioned in my last video, I don't have to remove the whole top of the incubator, set it to the side, and let all the heat escape. I can... One thing I want to... This board right here, I need to fix. I need to glue it in, but where it goes is it goes right down here. And what that does is keep you from seeing the actual fan itself. It's pretty much just a cosmetic piece. It doesn't actually serve any function besides just keeping you from seeing the fan. That's why I put the plastic down there in the bottom too. Just kind of looks a little bit more professional, and that's what I like. So what I like about this is I don't have to remove the whole top of my egg incubator, set it over to the side to access my cells, and when doing so, all of the heat escape. With this, I can simply, if I need to get cells from the top, open the door really quickly, grab the cells, heat's escaping from the front, but nothing like it would if I was removing the top. Quickly grab my cells, throw this back closed, and move on. So what I would like to do now is kind of share a little bit of the video I made when I was putting this together to kind of give you an idea of the things I was going through while building this. And I'm not going to say it's perfect at this point. I do think I will still be making some tweaks to it and getting it just right. This Watlow actually has a place to hook up a second fan, and I may end up doing that just to keep the warm air circulating. But time will tell. And I've also learned that when you feed queens that have hatched in this incubator, because I have got to use it once so far this year, that you don't want to give them honey in there and set the cage on end, because what happens is the honey gets warm and it runs and drips all over everything. So that's what that line is there you see on my thermometer. So I've learned, crystallize honey, lay the queen cage on its back so that the honey can't flow out and drip all over the place. But at the same time, you don't want to add a whole lot of crystallized honey to your queens. Sure, you got to feed them, but you don't want them to get all sticky and messy. I've been down that road, and it can be a disaster. So let me take this back in, set it back up, get it plugged back in, because later today I have cells to stick in here and I need to get it to temperature. But for now, let's check out that video on the things I had to face while building this. Hello everyone. I wanted to share the progress on my homemade incubator that I've been working on. I'll tell you, I've ran into some difficulties, some troubles, and the wiring and different things, but I wanted to go over it a little bit. What you're looking at here is the PID controller that I decided to use, and it is made by Watlow. The original one I purchased here was this one here, which was, or is, a MyPen PID. Let me get it out of the box here. This is the one I purchased, and this is the one I originally planned to use, and then one of my followers on YouTube seen my homemade ProVat video where I used a PID, and he wanted to send me one that was a little bit better, had a better auto-tune feature, and he's the one that sent me the Watlow, and it came last week, actually 2 days after this one came. So I decided, actually after I did a quick Google search on this PID here is about $300. Has a lot of special extra features. This one here, made by MyPen, is, I think I paid $35 with the solid state relay. And this is the solid state relay. So I decided to use the PID that was sent to me. Let me turn on another light here. Which is this one, and I'm using it with the relay that came with the one I purchased. I've got it all wired up now. There is a couple things I need to change or correct. Like right here you can see I've got a wire that used to go to something and I've chopped the end off. It's not touching anything, so I don't have to be concerned about it right now for this demonstration, but I do got some things I want to fix. I want to change out this ABS box, which is this plastic box. I cut my holes a little bit too big for my toggle switches, and Now that I've got everything figured out how it goes, not everything's going to fit in this box, so I need to change that out. Out here I've got my temperature control, and we want to go by this middle temperature. That's the one that works off of the probe that runs down inside of the incubator. The other temperature is what it is in the house right now. Yeah, that seems a little bit extreme, but when you look outside and you see snow and cold, yeah, it's about 12 degrees outside. Probably need to damper the wood burner down a little bit, but that's what it is right now in the house. Anyway, I wanted to give you a little demonstration on what I've got here. On the inside, let's go ahead and open it up real quick. On the inside, if we kick it on with this toggle switch here, that's going to turn on the fan, the heating element, which is under the fan, and I'll show you that here in a second. But I wanted to turn the light on. I got a LED light up there so I can check my cells with some light. I'll shut the light back off now in the PID, and we'll pull out this fan and my heating element. What I've got here is a 110 fan, which I may end up changing out to a 12 volt fan. That way it ain't using as much electric. And then here I have a heating, already hot, just that couple seconds. A heating element. This will go up to 220 degrees Celsius, I believe. I don't know what that converts out to, but I'm going to say it's right around 400 and some degrees. So what it does is it heats up this plate, and then this fan sitting up on top of here, in which there is a little space between the two of them, pushes the heat out the sides. Or wait, no, I have it sucking up. So it'll blow the heat up through the top, right up through the incubator. I haven't really decided whether I like it doing that or flipping it over and blowing towards the heating element and pushing the heat out the sides. So I need to experiment a little bit more with that. On the inside here, I've taken an old ceramic tile. It's broke, but it's working. Need to find a better piece. And I got the heating element setting on that just so it doesn't melt the styrofoam underneath of it. And I watched a video, last winter I think it was, where somebody did some experimenting with an incubator, and by simply placing a brick on the inside of the incubator, it didn't kick on as much to heat up because that heat was holding, or brick was holding heat. So we'll set this back on here like I had it, and we'll kick it on. That's the introduction screen that we see there. I've got these little fingers which I put on here, and they're not exactly the way I want them just yet. Got some tweaking to do. But if we look here at the PID, the green number is the set temperature, and the top is the actual temperature on the inside of there. Now if we compare this actual temperature with the actual temperature here, 77.9, 77.4, so they're pretty close. Now you can see this one's reacting a little bit quicker than the PID. So I've got some calibrating to do there. But all in all, you know, I'm really liking this. And don't forget, I do have one of these drawers. Let me open it back up here. This is where the queen cells will go on, just like I've got back here. Let me shut this off. Everything's all tangled up in here now, but it gives you the idea. The queen cells will sit on there like that, and I know I'll be able to get at least 100, 125 between this drawer, which goes in here. Everything just fighting against me trying to do this one-handed. The light fell and everything. And then the other drawer will slide in here. So it's all coming together. It's taken a little bit more tweaking than I figured for, but you know, that's how it is when you're making something that you got specific settings for and all of that good stuff. I need to run my wires up behind this board here so that they're not laying in the way. But it's coming together, folks. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. This here is a toggle switch for my light. Let me turn that back on. It's going to be facing right at us now because it dropped. But this is a toggle switch that changes the dimness of the light. And I'm probably just going to mount that right over here on the inside. I was going to try and put it up in the box, but it just seems like too much of a headache. You see this little number 1 here. That is an indicator that you're getting heat to your heating element. When you get up over the 93 degrees, that number 1 will go off. And then when it gets to below 93 degrees, you'll see it kick back on. It's just a symbol that the heating element is getting electric. You are producing heat. So pretty cool. Pretty excited about this and to use it this year and see what I can do with it. It's going to be a lot more handy to be able to flip the door down like this and grab my cells and versus taking the whole lid off and setting it over to the side. So there it is. It's looking good, folks. Let me know what you think. Have any questions? Okay, so as of today, May 2nd, it's only 8:30 in the morning and 45 degrees, but I wanted to have this footage for the video. So I just went out and collected the cells that I did have. Temperatures dropped again, so I didn't get a full frame. They decided to abort some of the cells, so this is what I got, and I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get them installed here in the incubator. Now, already in the incubator at this current moment is some swarm cells that I found in one of my other colonies. So that's what these are. They're just some huge swarm cells that I cut out with a knife and transferred them to cages to hatch out in. So I'm going to drop this down. And quickly set these cells right up in there. Like so. Now we'll slide them right back in and close it up. So look at that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 swarm cells that I cut out, and out of the grafts we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So looking really good. That'd be 13 queens if all of those emerge. I don't know so much about the swarm cells because they were rather difficult to cut out without squishing the cell itself. I think on that frame there was like 9 swarm cells, and you can see I only was able to salvage 4 of those. Very tricky to cut them out. It just so happened too that right where the swarm cells were, the foundation had wire in it and made it really tricky. But anyway, that's what they look like when they go in the incubator. I think we've got about, what, 5-6 days before anything starts to emerge. So we'll just keep a close eye on it until then. And when that time comes, right up here on top of the incubator, I keep my California cages. Got my honey to feed the bees. We're looking good. And look here. I've even got one of the old queen cells that emerged. Pretty sweet. Okay, so the weekly updates. Let's get the non-beekeeping related stuff out of the way. First of all, morel mushrooms. Boy, are they popping. If you're in an area, a royal area, where you can get out and look, I suggest you do that because there is nothing like the taste of some fried morel mushrooms. I have a couple, I don't know if they're hedge apples or crab apples or what. They got little thorns on them and the apples don't get real big. But in the last couple of years here on my property, this group of trees has done wonders for the mushrooms. Check out what I found this week. The other non-beekeeping related news is my cow Millie. She finally calved. Yeah, I got a little bull calf this week. I'm very, very excited. Millie has some, you know how we beekeepers are about genetics. Well, it's the same with my cattle. Millie has some tremendous genetics. And when you see how Millie is responding to our farmland and how she's maintaining weight and having these calves year after year, man, it just makes me excited to have a bull calf. So, good job, Millie. Super proud of you. Grafting. As you just seen, I grafted this last week, and that's where a lot of these cells that I just added came from. I was hoping for better results than I got, but it is what it is, and you take what you get, right? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use every single one of them, and hopefully this week when I graft, the weather will be a little bit better, and I'm kind of anxious to try out that grafting easel too, so that'll make it a little bit more exciting. One of the things I did this week while the weather was kind of bouncing around between crappy and halfway nice, it seems like the sun would come out for a little bit, then it would go away, and the skies would turn gray. Then later in that afternoon, the sun would come back out. So it was just all over the place. But what I did was I took and cleaned up a lot of my old frames, old drawn comb frames with some super dark comb on them. I know it's time that I start cycling through frames, getting out the old and replacing it, and that's what I worked on. I think I went through 40-50 frames this week. Not a whole lot, but for a hobbyist that could be a ton. And I went through the plastic foundation, plastic frames, plastic foundation, whatever it may be. I found out that if I take a wire wheel on my drill, first, let me back up. First thing I do is I take my hive tool and I scrape off the comb off of the plastic foundation. But there's still these little cocoons that are left pitted down in that little cell that's on the plastic foundation. And it was driving me nuts. I wanted to get that off there and get it cleaned up as best I could. So I experimented with a wire wheel on my drill. And wow, cocoons were flying. It was awesome. So here's what that looked like before I did a frame. You can see the chunks of pollen, some dirt and debris, and the little pieces of cocoon that are still left down in the cell. This is what it looked like after I took the drill to it. So yeah, I thought it was pretty impressive, and I think that's a step that I'll start to include now whenever I do this. So after I went through all of my frames, cleaned them all up, the ones with wax foundation, they obviously just got cut out, thrown in a cardboard box, which I'll soon be rendering that wax and cleaning it up to add to my wax stockpile. Wax is very handy to have around. For one thing I use it for is to recoat these plastic foundations. So after I got all the plastic foundations cleaned, all the wax foundations cut out, I set up 2 buckets of water. One was bleach water solution and one was just straight water. And then I dipped each frame in the bleach water, just kind of scrubbing it with a brush, and then I dipped it in the fresh water. This is what that looked like. Check it out. Okay, so in this bucket I have my bleach water, which is basically about 4.5–5 gallons of water with a couple splashes of bleach. I didn't actually measure it out. In this bucket we have just straight water, and this is to rinse the frames. I also have a stiff bristled brush that I am using to scrub the frames. So basically the operation looks like this. You take a frame that you've already scraped and took the wire wheel to. You stick it in the bleach water solution, and then you use your scrub brush get both sides of the frame. And I like to flip the frame over so that the other end gets to soak a little bit. Now we'll pull it out of here, stick it in our rinse water, dunk it a couple times, maybe take our hand and wipe anything loose on it that's floating on there and get it off. And we're going to come over here, we're going to give it a good shake, and we're going to set it out in the sun to dry. So after they came out of the water solution and I propped them up there against my deck and let the sun dry them, the next day was a rainy day, so I used that to my advantage. I stayed on my closed-in front porch where I've got my little electric skillet and my wax, and I melted down some wax, and I painted that plastic foundation, and I put new foundation in the frames that needed wax foundation. So I tried to be productive on a day that the weather said you're not going to do anything outside, and I felt rather good about it. And hey, I even found out that I have some frames that were given to me that have a wedge top. Never used them before, but I'm going to experiment with them. I'm not going to necessarily fill a whole box full of these wedged frames. I'll probably checkerboard them, in other words, every other frame. And I'm taking some fishing line, and I'm going to make an X pattern to give that comb some support once the bees do draw some comb in there. So that'll be rather interesting to see how they do with those frames and what they choose to do with those frames. Will they be worker brood, or will they be drone brood, or will it be split? I'm looking more for that option. So anyway, folks, you can see it's been a relatively busy week. Besides the bee activity here at the house, like you know, we are calving at the farm, and that's a daily occurrence to go up there and check the ladies and kind of just guess who's going to be the next one to calve. Not looking for any today, but we did gain number 6 yesterday. Don't see any cows in the next couple days. Probably about mid next week we'll start having more calves. So pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about the queens in the incubator. Now we just need Mother Nature to cooperate, give us some sun, some warm weather, and hey, let's get this bee season started. You keep tickling us with these little warm days and then you take them away. I don't like being tickled. So stop it. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed these videos just as much as I enjoy making them for you, throw me a big thumbs up. Maybe share it with your friends. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and click on that little bell so you can get notified when I release new videos. Thanks for watching, and catch me next Sunday. I'm going to surprise you with what the video is about. We'll see you then.